2 years ago, I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a mountain of boxes that had just been delivered to my door. There were skincare products I didn't really need, a new set of high-end coffee mugs even though my cupboard was already full, and a pair of shoes I'd bought because I saw them in a 30-second ad while I was scrolling in bed at 2 a.m. My credit card statement showed $5,200 in charges for that month alone. My savings account, the place where my future was supposed to be growing, held exactly $412. I was 34 years old. I was making a professional salary. I was working 45 hours a week, and yet I was essentially one bad month away from total financial collapse. I felt like I was running on a treadmill that was slowly speeding up, and no matter how fast I ran, I wasn't actually moving forward. I was just getting more exhausted. Then, everything changed because of a $3 notebook and a philosophy that is over a century old. Before we dive into the system that saved my life, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt that specific heavy pit in your stomach when you check your bank balance and realize you have no idea where the money went? If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still getting nowhere, you are not alone. We are building a community here of people who are tired of the consumer trap and ready to build something real. If that's you, hit that like button right now to let the algorithm know that this is the kind of content that actually matters. Subscribe and join us. And in the comments below, tell me one thing you've bought in the last month that you already regret. Let's be honest with each other because that honesty is the first step toward freedom. This isn't just about money. It's about taking back your time, and your engagement helps us reach more people who are drowning in the same sea of debt that I was. The reason I was drowning wasn't because I didn't make enough money. It was because my operating system was broken. In the West, we are taught that wealth is something you perform. It's the car you drive, the brand on your chest, the house you post on Instagram. We are conditioned to believe that spending is the reward for working hard. But in Japan, there is a fundamentally different relationship with money. There, wealth is often built quietly. It isn't a performance, it's a practice. It's grounded in a century-old budgeting system called kakebo, which translates to household financial ledger. I discovered it while reading an article about Hani Motoko, Japan's first female journalist, who invented the system in 1904. She designed it for women who had very little financial power, but who were responsible for the family's survival. It was a tool of liberation. When I started using it, I didn't just save more money. I retired my old identity as a consumer and started my journey to retire 10 years earlier than I ever thought possible. Within 12 months, I went from that $400 in savings to over $21,000. Same job, same city, same life, just a different notebook. The first habit, and the foundation of everything, is the act of the physical ledger itself. In an age of automated apps and frictionless digital payments, the kakebo asks you to do something radical. Slow down. It requires a physical notebook and a pen. Every morning or every evening you sit down and record your life. Most people use apps that categorize their spending automatically. The problem with those apps is that they keep your brain asleep. When a machine does the work, you don't feel the weight of the transaction. You don't process the choice. Kakebo forces you to write down 4 simple questions at the start of every month. How much money do you have? How much would you like to save? How much are you actually spending? And most importantly, how can you improve? By writing these down, you are moving the data from a cold digital screen into your physical consciousness. Behavioral psychologists call this cognitive friction. By making it slightly harder and more manual to track your money, you make it much harder to waste it. This leads directly into the second habit, the 4-category filter. Modern budgeting apps often have 15 or 20 different categories: utilities, groceries, entertainment, travel, pets, gym. It's overwhelming, and eventually you stop looking at it because it's too much noise. The Japanese system simplifies everything into just 4 buckets: needs, wants, culture, and unexpected. This simplicity is where the power lies. Needs are the non-negotiables: rent, electricity, basic food. Wants are the things that make life fun but aren't required for survival. Culture is the most interesting category. This is money spent on books, museum tickets, or learning a new skill. It is an investment in your soul. Unexpected is the emergency fund for when the car breaks down or the sink leaks. Every time I reached for my wallet, I started asking myself, which bucket is this? If I couldn't justify it as culture or a need, and I'd already filled my wants for the week, the wallet stayed closed. This single habit reduced my impulse spending by nearly 40% in the first 3 months. The third habit is the principle of motai nai. This is a word that has no direct translation in English, but it roughly means what a waste or don't be wasteful. But it carries a deeper, almost spiritual weight. It is the feeling of regret when a resource is not used to its full potential. In America, we are the kings of waste. We throw away 30% of our food. We replace our phones every 2 years. We buy fast fashion that falls apart after 3 washes and then toss it in the bin. Practicing motai means looking at everything you own as a resource that deserves respect. It means repairing a pair of boots instead of buying new ones. It means finishing every scrap of food in your fridge before you go grocery shopping again. When I adopted this mindset, I realized I was throwing away nearly $300 a month in expired food and neglected subscriptions. That's $3,600 a year. Over 10 years, invested at a standard market rate, that waste alone is worth $50,000. That is 6 months of my retirement, literally thrown in the trash. If you're finding value in these shifts, take a second to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to keep making these deep dives. Now, the fourth habit is perhaps the most famous Japanese manufacturing concept that applies perfectly to your wallet: Kaizen. This is the art of continuous, small improvement. Most people fail at financial freedom because they try to change everything overnight. They go on a spending fast in January, and by February they are binge spending to make up for the deprivation. Kaizen teaches you that a 1% improvement, repeated every single day, leads to a total transformation. Instead of trying to save $1,000 this month, try to save $10 more than you did last month. Negotiate one bill. Cancel one streaming service you don't watch. Buy the generic brand of one item. These tiny wins fly under the radar of your brain's resistance. They don't feel like a sacrifice, so they actually stick. The fifth habit is chokin, or the savings first sequence. Most Americans follow a linear path: earn money, pay bills, spend on fun, and then save whatever is left. The problem is that there is never anything left. Expenses expand to fill the income available. Chokin flips the script. You save first. The very second your paycheck hits your account, a predetermined percentage, usually 20%, is moved into a separate account. You then live on whatever remains. This forces you to be creative and disciplined with your remaining 80%. It turns saving from a maybe into a must. When I started doing this, I realized I was much more capable of living on less than I thought. I didn't miss the money because I never saw it. It was working for me in the background, compounding while I slept. Habit number 6 is harahachi bu. Originally, this is a Confucian teaching about eating until you are 80% full. It's why people in Okinawa live longer than almost anyone else on Earth. But when you apply this to your lifestyle, it becomes a wealth-building superpower. Most people live at 100% of their capacity, or worse, at 110% using credit cards. They fill every square inch of their house, every hour of their day, and every dollar of their budget. Harahachi-bu is the practice of deliberate margin. It means living in a house that is 20% smaller than you can afford. It means leaving 20% of your weekend unscheduled. It means keeping 20% of your income as a peace of mind buffer. That 20% isn't missing money. It's the space where your freedom lives. It's the difference between an emergency being a life-altering disaster and it being a minor inconvenience. This leads us to the 7th habit, wabi-sabi. This is the Japanese aesthetic of finding beauty in imperfection and age. It is the direct antidote to the new is better culture of the West. Wabi-sabi teaches us to appreciate the scratches on our wooden table, the fading on our favorite jeans, and the character of an older car. When you embrace wabi-sabi, the urge to upgrade vanishes. You stop looking at your 3-year-old phone as obsolete and start seeing it as a reliable tool that has served you well. This habit alone saved me from the lifestyle creep that destroys most professional salaries. Every time my peers bought a new SUV or a new designer bag, I looked at my well-loved, functional possessions and felt a sense of peace instead of envy. If you can stay satisfied with what you have while your income grows, you are on the fast track to retiring a decade early. The 8th habit is usuji, the annual deep clean and financial reset. In Japan, this is done at the end of the year to start the new year with a fresh soul. Physically, you clean every corner of your home. Financially, you clean every corner of your accounts. You go through every single recurring charge. You check your insurance rates. You look at your investment fees. You ask yourself, does this still serve the life I am building? Most of us have financial leaks. Small $5 charges that we've forgotten about, but that are draining our future. An annual usuji plugs the leaks. The first time I did this, I found nearly $400 a month in zombie expenses. That's nearly $5,000 a year I reclaim just by paying attention. Habit number 9 is ikigai, or finding your reason for being. You might wonder what this has to do with a notebook, but the answer is everything. Most people spend money to numb the pain of a life they don't enjoy or to impress people they don't like. They buy things to fill a void. But when you have a clear ikigai, a purpose that gets you out of bed in the morning, you no longer need the retail therapy. Your money becomes a tool to support your purpose, not a distraction from the lack of one. For me, my purpose became building a life where I could spend my mornings writing and my afternoons with my family, without the shadow of debt hanging over us. Once that was clear, the wants category in my notebook became much less tempting. Why buy a new watch when that money could buy me a month of freedom later in life? Finally, the 10th habit is hansei, the practice of honest self-reflection. At the end of every month, Kakeibo users sit down and look at their notebook. They don't just look at the numbers, they look at their emotions. They ask, how did I feel when I spent this? Did it bring me lasting joy or just a temporary rush? This isn't about guilt, it's about data. It's about learning who you are and what actually makes you happy. Most of us are strangers to our own spending habits. Hansei makes you the master of them. It turns every mistake into a lesson and every success into a blueprint. When you combine these 10 habits with the $3 notebook, something magical happens. You stop being a passenger in your own life. You take the wheel. You realize that the middle-class trap, the cycle of earning more just to spend more, is optional. You can choose to step off the treadmill. By adopting a quiet wealth mindset, you aren't just saving pennies, you are buying back your years. If you save and invest just $500 more a month starting in your 30s, you can easily shave a decade off your working life. That's 10 years of mornings where you wake up and decide what to do with your time, 10 years of travel, or hobbies, or being present for the people you love. I want you to think about that woman sitting at the kitchen table 2 years ago. She was overwhelmed, she was broke, and she was scared. She thought the answer was a higher salary or a lucky break. She was wrong. The answer was already in her hands. She just needed to learn how to see it. She needed to learn that wealth isn't what you buy, it's what you keep. It's the respect you show to your resources and the discipline you show to your future self. If this message resonated with you, please share this video with one friend who needs to hear it. We all have that one friend who is struggling to keep their head above water, and this could be the lifeline they need. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We have a lot more deep dives coming on how to master your mindset and your money using these hidden strategies that the mainstream media never talks about. Remember, the goal isn't to die with the most stuff. The goal is to live with the most freedom. It starts with a notebook. It starts with a pen. And it starts today. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep building that quiet wealth. Your future self is already thanking you for the choices you're making right now. Stay intentional, stay disciplined, and most importantly, stay free.